So the first question everyone always asks is, what is the tree warden? And maybe you guys, being more politically active, may know what the tree warden is, but for those who don't, it's kind of in charge of all the public shade trees, which in Massachusetts is defined as any tree that borders a public way. Kind of a broad definition, so the power is interpreted varyingly depending on who's actually in the position, but basically ensures that all the trees that are under the town's purview, under the town's responsibility, are safe, maintained, for both protection of public and private property. We've had a lot of work done recently by National Grid and through town. I would also negotiate with National Grid about, what's able to be removed, what should be removed, what shouldn't be removed. I think they were kind of given a blank slate last time around to kind of take down what they wanted without the town getting anything in return. And from my experiences in talking with other tree wardens who've done the job in the past in other towns, oftentimes you can get something in return from the National Grid, which was something that I would explore as tree warden. Looking to get some money towards trees on the lower and upper greens, maybe around the library or around the school, things that would come back to the town for them getting the rights to take down trees in our town. That's kind of what the tree warden does. I would like to explore more plantings along the greens. We're losing trees, we're not really replacing them through either public or private donations, possible grant writing. Newburyport runs their trees mainly through, and they have a tree warden, as every town in Massachusetts has to have, but they also do a lot through a tree committee, which identifies trees in the town, maintains a database of the tree stocks in town, and granted their city's a lot bigger than our town is, but they do a lot of good work as far as planting trees and making sure that the trees along the city streets, we have trees along the city streets, they have trees along the city streets. I would like to be able to do that in this town as well, through possible, getting some interested people who want to help write grants, want to help explore donations for trees. So that's kind of what the tree warden does, and in a nutshell, what I'd like to do. Any questions about the tree warden or what I'd like to do with it?
I don't know who you are.
I'm Keith Stromski, I'm sorry. I should have started off with that. So yeah, I'm Keith Stromski, I'm candidate for tree warden. It's been done for quite ably for a number of years by Peter Hollis, whose work I've respected. He's done a lot of great pruning work and tree work in the town, and for quite a number of years. And I've been an arborist now for 15 years, and like to give back a little to the town. My competitor for the position is Tim Lamprey, good guy, knows a lot about trees and landscaping and the commercial aspects of trees, and would probably do a wonderful job. I feel that I'm more qualified in the realm of identifying structural deficits in trees, as that's my job. I'm a great drive-by tree identifier. I can drive by, oh, that tree's dangerous. And would be obviously more hands-on as tree warden than just cruising around town.
What about this Asian beetle thing, which has been so ferocious in that part of the state?
That's my worst nightmare. Yeah, I mean it was devastating out in Worcester what they did. The hands are tied of local authorities at that point. I mean, some of the restrictions they put on even companies doing business in that area. You couldn't have an ounce of wood on your truck if you wanted to do any work in that area. I know some guys from this area who went over there, to do a lot of the work, and they'd have just a piece of pressure treated wood on the side of their truck, and that had to go. It would be a huge logistical nightmare and would really ruin the character of this town. But as far as the tree warden goes, your hands are totally tied. I mean, the USDA, I think, is the one who's in charge of that, and they just basically show up, put the entire area in quarantine. No wood's allowed to go in, no wood's allowed to go out, or maybe wood's allowed to come in, but at that point, nobody wants wood coming in. And that would really, truly be devastating. I think a little more dangerous for our neck of the woods and less controlled by the USDA is the emerald ash borer, which was seen as close as, or was found as close as the China blossom out on 125 and 97, I think it is. That was seen as close as there, and that's devastating primarily to ash trees. They found it in a couple other species in minor amounts, but that could devastate the ash trees. We don't have too many ash trees that the town deals with. But that does bring up a point that I would like to do as tree warden. I'd like to be a little more proactive in reaching out to homeowners as far as possibly, hosting some sort of pruning demonstration or form on how to care for trees, what to look for in problem trees. I kind of fine line I'm gonna have to learn how to walk as far as my own personal business and tree work. But I think a lot of people are unaware of some dangers that trees can represent to their property, and what to look for is like whether they may or may not have a problem tree, and whether it's worthwhile calling in an expert to just even take a look at it. So maybe just like a pamphlet or a mailing. We haven't had a hurricane in this area for 26, 30 years, a long time, and trees have been growing a lot since then, and that's something to be concerned about. From the town's perspective, from the tree warden's perspective, what's going to happen to the town trees at that point? Are there any trees that are likely to fail at that point? And those are the things that I would need to identify and address as far as what might need to be managed ahead of time, and what kind of danger we'd be in if it did happen.
What species should we be thinking about planting town-wide? I mean, we've been through this Dutch elm stuff.
Yeah.
Within my lifetime and memory, if not of yours, you're too young, but...
I remember at my grandmother's house. I was in Illinois at that point in time. But
Newburyport, High Street, Ipswich, High
Yeah.
Street, just simply denuded of that wonderful cover. Now, what ought we to be thinking about in terms of species going forward to try to maintain the tree cover?
I love the native species in this town. We have red maples, can be a gorgeous tree. I tend to want to steer away from a lot of the exotic species brought in. They tend to not do as well here because they haven't evolved to live here. Norway maples, which have been banned for planting in the state, are pretty prevalent. And they're fragile. They seed themselves too readily, so obviously not a good candidate for planting. A lot of the street trees that do well around here are overplanted and are asking for the similar thing to Dutch elms happen. I'm not saying that there's a honey locust disease out there that I know of, or that there's a Bradford pear disease that I know of out there. But if you go through some towns that have tried replacing their elms with some of these trees, like the In Street in Newburyport or Cabot Street in Beverly, it was just lined with Bradford pears. It's not going to take much to be facing the same situation. So I don't know if I have a recommendation for any one specific tree to plant, but diversity is the key. Because if you have something that comes in and wipes out Bradford pears, and you have that and that's all your trees, and you're done. But if that's 1 out of every 5, 1 out of every 10, then it's not as devastating.